Alright. So, again, a couple of questions that you guys asked. So, first we're going to look at number 3.
Okay.
So, on 3, it says if K is the midpoint of HJ, segment HJ, and HK is x plus 6, and HJ is 4x minus 6, then what is KJ? Well, again, you should always draw a figure. Do some type of sketch. So on here, we have the line segment HJ is the entire thing.
That's a pretty color.
Then it says K is the midpoint. So they are going to be congruent to each other.
Okay.
We also know that HK is x plus 6. And then HJ, which is the entire thing, is 4x minus 6. They want us to figure out the length of this piece. Well, before we even figure out the length of this piece, we can at least say as an expression that it's equal to what?
X plus 6.
It's also equal to x plus 6.
I said it was 0.
So again, these two are going to be equal because they're congruent. So now, you could say this entire thing, again, this is segment addition postulate, the whole thing is going to be equal to the two smaller parts added together. So x plus 6 plus x plus 6. Or, if you wanted to, you could have listed this out as 2 times x plus 6. Either way, you end up with the same values on the next line, right? Because if we simplify that, if you had done 2 times this, you distribute property. Here, instead, I'm combining like numbers. So x and x is 2x. 6 and 6 is 12. And now, we can go ahead and solve that. So solve for x. Bring the 2x over to the side by subtracting it. So we're left with 2x. The negative 6 we can bring over to the other side by adding it. So we have 18. So then x is, divide by 2, and you get 9.
I got 4.
Now, that's not the final answer. Not the final answer yet, right? No. Because what did they ask us to find? Did they ask us to find x? No. They want us to find kj. So kj, we said, is the same as the expression x plus 6. It was the same as hk, right? So we're going to plug that 9 back in. So for kj, it's equal to 9 plus 6, which is 15. And that is our final answer. So our correct answer here is option A. It's 15 for the final answer. Because again, you had to solve for x. X was 9, but then you had to plug it back in.
Oh, then KJ equals...
So KJ is equal to 15. Now, on a question like this, where you have multiple choice, if it asks you for a length like this, and you first have to solve for x, almost every time, the value of x will be one of those options in your multiple choice answers. So you have to double check, what was the question asking for? Was it asking for x, or was it asking you to plug it back in and find some other measure?
It was asking for KJ.
Yeah, on this one, it was looking for KJ.
I had a 75% chance of getting that correct.
All right, so that was for, again, that was for number 3. Yes? You don't have to ask. All right. No, for tutoring. All right. So now, on number 7. So let me go ahead and get rid of that. For number 7, it says, what is the coordinate of the midpoint of segment AB? So here's AB. Now again, the proper way to find your midpoint would be to do an average. So we're going to average the two values at our coordinates of A and B. So here, we're going to do, again, this is for number 7, negative 12 plus 8 divided by 2. Again, we're just averaging them. So negative 12 plus 8, negative 4, divided by 2 is negative 2. So our coordinate for our midpoint is going to be at negative 2. Now, Any question there? So yeah, it said explain how you found your answer. We found it by averaging the 2 points. Yes.
Can you also go to number 9?
Yeah. All right. Yes.
Why do we call it coordinates? I thought coordinates was used what points are going to plane.
Well, again, these are coordinates on a number line,
Oh.
but you have coordinates on a coordinate plane, which is then 2-dimensional as well. And in the next 2 sections, we are doing pretty much the exact same thing that we were covering in 4.1 and 4.2. We're doing in 5.1 and 5.2, except we're doing it on a coordinate plane. So right now we're doing it on a number line. In the next section, we're doing it all on a coordinate plane. But it's going to be the same topics, midpoint and distance, all over again. All right? Okay, so that was for 7. All right, then we had, the next one you asked for was 8.
I thought it was more.
So now, 8, point M is the midpoint of AB. What is, oh, I covered something up, didn't I? What is the coordinate of the midpoint of AM? Isn't that what you just did?
Yeah, that's what I was.
What is the coordinate of the midpoint of AB?
It's asking for AM, not AB.
M
If M is the midpoint. then-
is the midpoint of AB. What is the coordinate of the midpoint?
So then what if you
Oh. They want the midpoint of AM now. So on the last problem, we just said that the midpoint of AB was -2. So I'm not writing in my book here, but we know so far that A is here at -12. We know that B is here at 8. Let me go ahead and put my answer back up there from the last problem, because we're kind of carrying that over. So that was from number 7. We had the midpoint now was at -2. They want the midpoint of AM in number 8.
Oh,
So they want the point over here.
I know it's 2.
So, well,
-12 plus -2 over 2.
and that's it. We're just doing another average. We're averaging the one endpoint and the other endpoint, which is our midpoint of the original. So,
-14
-14 divided by 2 is -7. And that's it. So we basically found the midpoint of that half a segment. So we now are like a quarter of the way of the original line. Does 9 build off of this as well? Because you also asked 9.
Point C is between A and B. The distance between points B and C is 1/4.
Okay, so this one I don't need the information from the last couple. So on this one, we're still using the same line. Still using the same line segment up here.
Now we have C.
But now we're doing C, and it's based off of the original values, though. So it says C is a point between A and B. The distance between points B and C is 1/4 of AB. Now, you have to be careful on this one, because on all the other ones that we've done like this, we've started from the first value. So we were started over here from A. When we do this problem, we're looking at from B to C is 1/4. So we're starting from over here and going the other way. So be careful as you do this problem. So again, I'm going to draw that same line segment that we have up top, because we already know that this entire length is what? 20? All right? And that actually comes from number 6. All right? So you had subtracted the 12, the -12, and the 8, and got that the whole length of 20. Now, we got to do a fourth of that. So, what is a fourth of 20? 5. Again, you could either look at it as 20 times 1/4 or 20 divided by 4. Either way, it's still 5. Now, this is the length of the new segment. But we're going not from A this time. If you read it carefully, we're going from B. So we're going 5 units in this way to get to C, which would be what? 3, because we got to do subtract from 8 to go backwards. So this one was tricky, I'm not going to try to trick you like that on the quiz.
I only got part of the answer right.
Yeah. If you had went from A, then you have probably had, what, -7?
Yeah, that's what I got.
So if you got -7, you did all the steps right, but you just went from the wrong endpoint. So you got to make sure you're answering the question that's being asked. They said B, so be very careful there. Again, that was for number 9.
18.
All right. Number 18.
I didn't know you joined that.
Anything that you guys asked for, I'm going over. I'm not going over all the problems, but now I'm going to 18 because that's the next one that was asked.
That's the one that I'm tripping on.
All right. So 18. I've had a lot of questions on this one today because it's a little bit different. Now, it uses the word bisect, right?
Yeah.
So first, we have our angle. Again, it can just be a rough sketch. Our original angle is PQR. And then it's being bisected by QS. So we need to draw a line that's bisecting this. Now to point S. Now, really, that is a ray, but I'm just drawing a rough sketch. So I didn't put my arrows on there. But it's being bisected. So I can mark it as being bisected. So I put an arc on each one. I know that those two should now be equal. For PQS, it says it's 3x. And for RQS, it says it is 2x plus 6. They don't tell me what the whole thing is, but that's what they want us to find. Now, most of the other problems we did, we were told a value here, and we said this plus this equals that. But also on those problems, we originally had only one of these two given to us, and we ended up doubling it. This time, they gave us both pieces as two different equations. So we can take those two different equations, and since we know that they should be congruent to one another, we can set the equations themselves equal. So on here, we can just do 3x equals 2x plus 6. Now we can solve that. And this one's actually really easy to solve from there. Again, these two are congruent to one another, so their measurements should be equal. So subtract the 2x, x equals 6. Now, we need to know what PQR is. So 6 is not the final answer. Again, we got to plug it back in. Does it matter which one of these we plug back into? Not really. We could do both. We could just do one. It doesn't really matter. I'd pick the easiest one. So I'm going to plug it back into the 3x. So 3x. Again, I'm replacing the x then with the 6. So 3 times 6 is 18. So that's what one of these angles is. We need to do that times 2. So it's a total of 36. Again, notice your answer choices though. What they give you as answer choices. They gave you the 6 that we originally came up with for x. They gave you the 18 that we came up with when we plugged it in. And then they gave you the final answer. The only one that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense is that 30. All right? But I'm sure there's a reason that they threw that one on there. Again, when you have multiple choice questions, you got to be careful because a lot of times those multiple choice answers, the other answers are there to distract you from getting it correct. So you got to make sure you're answering the final question. Yes?
So will the question like this be on the quiz?
Something like that?
Yeah.
It could be. I'm not putting it as multiple choice.
Oh, you're not?
So we just have to know.
Not this time.
We just have to know that since they are congruent, that
You can set them equal.
they're equal.
Yep. Again, if you have two congruent angles, you can set them equal. Yes.
Could you go on to the back? Could you do number 19? I don't understand.
Sure. I'll do 19.
Thank you.
All right. So that was 18.
Can you also do 13? Thank you, Mr. Spizak.
I'll go back to 13 in a minute. Let me do 19, 25, and then I'll go back to 13. Answers for 48? Yes, I can get you the answers.
40 plus
All right, hold on. Let me do this first. All right, on 19. So you have this time. This time we have angle P and angle Q are supplementary. So what should they equal to?
180.
So our first part of our equation on this one, we already know they're equal to 180. What's equal to 180?
Angle P and angle Q.
So we have to add those two together. So we have 5x plus 3 plus x plus 3. A lot of times I put my total first. You can put it on the other side. It doesn't matter where you started off. But again, I usually like to list my total first. It's just a preference. So now, 5x and x, we can combine those, combine your like terms. So we add those together, get 6x. 3 and 3 also gives us 6. Subtract off 6 from this, and you have 174. Divide by 6, and you get 29.
Yeah.
And then finally, that's not our, wait, is that our final answer? That is our answer, because they just wanted x this time. So C was 29. And that was for 19. Now, did you guys sign out? Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, 25 on the back, and then I'll go back to 13. All right.
Yeah. Protractor is probably aligned with the vertical.
So now, on 25, it says in the figure, measure of angle 1 is equal to 4x plus 50. Measure of angle 3 is equal to 2x plus 66. Show all work for parts A, B, and C. What's the value of x? Well, what do we know about angle 1 and angle 3?
Ooh, they are vertical angles, so they're equal to each other.
All right, they're vertical angles, so they're equal to each other. I'm sorry, she had her hand up first. All right, so we know these two are vertical, therefore they're congruent, therefore they're equal. So we can say the two angles they gave us, 4x plus 50. Again, this is for number, right? I'm doing the one you asked for.
Oh, yeah, can you move it up just a little bit, Josh, so you can
25. So this was number 25. Oh, you want me to move this
Yeah,
up?
so we can see. That's
Okay.
what I was trying to say, my bad.
So on here, we have that part is equal to angle 3, which was 2x plus 66. Again, this is for part A so far. All right. So we have our equation. We need to solve the equation, and that'll give us angle x. Or sorry, not angle x, the value of x. So we have the 2x we can bring over. So we'll subtract it off. We're left with 2x. We can bring the 50 over. That'll give us 16. Then we divide by 2 and we get. So that's the first answer. Then for part B, what is the measure of angle 3? Well, we need to take that and plug it back in. We have the original equation up top. So measure of angle 3 was equal to 2x plus 66. So we're substituting in the 8 for the x. So 2 times 8 plus 66. That's 16 plus 66, which is 82. So that's the second answer. Now, this answer was not in degrees. The second answer should be in degrees because it's actually an angle measure. Again, if you're giving the measure of an angle, it should be in degrees. And then measure of angle 2. Well, angle 2, look back up at the diagram, was next to 3. How would we find angle 2 if we already know angle 3?
Okay, you subtract 82 from 180.
Yeah, because those two form a straight line. That's a linear pair. A linear pair must always be supplementary. They will always add up to 180. So for part C, all you got to do, 180 minus 82 equals 98, yes.
He's like, how do you do that?
Sorry, you yelled out in the middle of my thought there. I was like, what? So, 98 degrees, all right? Any question there? All right, and then the other one you wanted me to go back to was 13, right? Okay. That's the last one I'm going to do up here as a group, I think. Because again, this is a homework assignment, and we've already done what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This will be 8. So we've done 8 out of the 27. So that means you have 19 left, huh? What do you mean?
I was just like, I think you calculate how many points you're going to take away from you.
No.
I was confused. I was like,
That's something a horrible math teacher would do.
Why would he even host it? Why would he even do that?
All right, on 13. Yeah, that's going to cost you points to come to tutoring. On 13, what are two conclusions that you can draw from this? Point P is the midpoint of QR, segment QR. So give me anything that you can conclude from that. Go ahead, shout it out.
Does that mean PQ plus PR equals QR?
So you said, say it one more time, slower.
PQ plus
PQ
PR equals
plus
QR.
PR equals QR. All right. That sounds good. That works for me. So this is the idea of segment addition postulate. That works. There's more things. Anybody want to say anything else?
No.
Yeah. What was the key word they used here? There's a key vocab word they used.
Midpoint.
Midpoint.
Oh my gosh, I was guessing.
So what else could you say?
It's the middle.
It's the middle. So what's true? It's half. Okay. Give me something that I
Both
can.
sides are equal.
Both sides are equal. All right. So I could say that PQ is equal to PR.
Yes, it is.
If the two segments are equal, that means that they're also congruent. So I could say
These are the same. Wait.
segment PQ is congruent to segment PR. And again, I could reverse the order of any of these letters. So flip those around, flip those around. I could also flip the equation around. I also heard I said something about half back there, right? So I could say something along the lines of PQ is equal to half of QR.
Oh, that's fancy right there.
Or, again, the other way around, I could do PR the same way. PR is equal to 1/2 of QR. Or, instead of saying half of QR, I could say that double one of these would equal QR. So I could say 2 times PQ equals QR. Or 2 times PR equals QR. Again, there's lots of options. All they asked for was 2. But just saying that that's a midpoint of those is a lot of different things that we already know. Okay, I'm going to stop going over things there since, again, this is a homework assignment.